UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has called him a game changer in the fight against climate change. US President Joe Biden has described them as a historical commitment in advancing the fight against the global climate crisis. And German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has labelled them as a lighthouse project for multilateral cooperation, energy transition and sustainable investments. Meanwhile, unions and civil society organisations have condemned them as debt traps, a betrayal of the working class, and even an apartheid arrangement. Yet the chances are, if you're watching this in the UK, Europe or the US, you won't even have heard of just energy transition partnerships being broken by your governments. So what is the reality behind the rhetoric? What are just energy transition partnerships? A major new report by Union of Justice titled Just Energy Transition Partnerships, Market Capture or Climate Justice investigates the plans, debates and executions of the partnerships, with a focus on the partnership with South Africa, which is being supported to transition away from coal energy. Through a deep dive into the declarations, finance strategies, debates and institutions charged with delivering the partnerships, we are sounding the alarm on the dangers of these market-led approaches to combating climate crisis, which keep the private sectors firmly in the driving seats. The Just Energy Transition Partnerships are finance packages for infrastructure and development being led by the governments of the G7. Financing is offered to support major countries in the global south in decarbonising by transitioning away from fossil fuels and introducing renewable energy and related technologies, such as starting up electrical vehicle industries or investing in green hydrogen. The partnerships were launched in late 2021, with South Africa signing up as the inaugural host at the COP26 conference. And new partnership announcements have become a regular occurrence at international gatherings in the following years. Indonesia signed up at the G20 summit in 2022, Vietnam signed up at COP27, and Senegal signed up at the Paris summit for a new global finance pact in June 2023. The aspect of the partnerships that grab headlines the most are the impressive sounding figures attached to them, with 8.5 billion pledged to South Africa, 20 billion to Indonesia, and over 15 billion for Vietnam, and nearly 3 billion for Senegal. But you see, a closer look into the details of the partnerships gives a far more troubling picture. Our report shows how the partnerships are charters for privatization, which lock host countries into a market-led model of energy privatization and liberalization, in a chilling echo of the structural adjustment policies that have wreaked havoc across countries of the global south since the 1980s. Finance for the partnership is conditional on structural reforms to these developing countries' energy sectors. These include breaking up historically state-owned energy utilities, allocating a greater role to private energy producers, and establishing public-private partnerships which will line the pockets of private companies while shrinking the public sector and threatening energy access for the poorest. Despite the impressive sounding figures, the vast majority of the partnerships are set to be financed through loans and private finances, which risk burdening host countries with spiralling debts. Of the 8.5 billion pledged to South Africa, 91% consists of loans, while only 3% consists of grants. Meanwhile, Indonesia's 20 billion is rumoured to include less than 1% in grants. As countries across the global south are sinking into a growing debt crisis, the burden of this supposedly green debt will be felt most sharply by their populations through fiscal belt tightening and austerity measures. In spite of their appearance, the partnerships offer more of the same, delivering failed market-led prescriptions at a time which demands robust, state-led action to avert the worst of the climate crisis and protect the livelihoods of workers and communities. You see, throughout the process, the private sector and financial institutions have been given a privileged place in dictating the terms and conditions of the partnerships, while civil society and trade unions have been largely shut out. Less than 0.6% of South Africa's financing has been allocated towards socially minded objectives such as social investment and skills development, while workers in the country's impoverished coal belt have been kept in the dark about their fates. It is no surprise then that trade unions in South Africa have harshly criticised the partnerships and the trickle-down just transition that they're offering. Left unchallenged, programs like the Just Energy Transition Partnerships risk driving a wedge between workers, communities, and just transition goals that are needed now more than ever. And they offer a disturbing window into the kind of climate change approaches that we can expect to see closer to home. For that reason, our report outlines a 9-point alternative framework for more equitable climate development agreements in the Global South, based around the core principles of a more just deal for the Global South, a democratic transition, and defending energy sovereignty and energy security for host countries. This includes climate reparations to guide financing, protecting public ownership of energy over privatization, proper participation and oversight for trade unions and civil society organizations in any deals, and finally, ensuring that no one is priced out of energy. In our urgent fight against climate change, the approach we take matters. The Just Energy Transition Partnerships highlight the need for action that prioritizes fairness and transparency over mere corporate interests. We urge everyone to critically evaluate and reshape such initiatives. A sustainable future hinges on justice and equity. Visit our website, unionofjustice.com, and read more in our report titled Just Energy Transition Partnerships, Market Capture or Climate Justice.